Starlink Gen 3 versus Starlink Mini for full-time travellers.
All right, so for anyone that's new around the channel, my name is Ben and this is Ash.
Hi.
We're part of a family of 4, currently travelling around Australia full-time. So we've been on the road for roughly 10 months now. So with this video, we're going to keep it nice, short and sweet and to the point. So we're going to look at the Gen 3 versus the Mini in regards to power draw and performance.
So for the first 9 months of our travelling, we used the Gen 3. And while we were in places that were super sunny, like Western Australia, South Australia, it was great. We didn't have any massive issues. But since we've been in Tasmania and the days are much shorter and there's just not the amount of sunshine, our solar setup, our battery setup is struggling. Well, was struggling with the Starlink.
So I know I'm going to get in there before someone chimes in down below and says, you don't need a Starlink to go camping and rah, rah, rah and all that kind of thing. But one thing I want to point out is we live full-time on the road. Our caravan is at home, so we currently don't have an internet connection at home. And we heavily rely on Starlink to be able to work, to be able to make a living while we're on the road, both Ash and myself. So for us, there isn't really any other option apart from Starlink that we're aware of. So for us, it is a necessity to have.
We currently use the unlimited roam plan, which is $195 a month. It's pretty expensive. There is an alternative for a 50 gig per month plan, and that's $80.
So before we go any further, we're not affiliated or anything with Starlink. However, we do have a 1 month free offer below. And what that basically enables you 1 free month. And I think it also gives us 1 free month as well. So it's kind of a win-win for both of us. And it's an easy way to support us while we're on the road. All right. So what we're going to test up first up is the power draw of the 2 units. So we're going to start with the Starlink Gen 3. I don't have really high-tech ways to be able to test this, but what we're going to do is we've got a RedArc Red Vision system. So we're going to turn it on and then we're just going to monitor the power usage through there. We've tried to turn off nearly everything else in the caravan we can, but so far when I look at it, we're currently using about 0.5 amp to just went up to 0.8 amps. So it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it should give us a pretty good idea of the comparison between the 2 units. Okay, Gen 3 is powered up. One thing I should mention is this is hooked up to an EnerDrive 2000 watt inverter. So we'll test the Gen 3 off the inverter. We will then test the Mini off the inverter. And then we're also going to test the Mini off just a 12 volt plug-in. So first off, we'll go for the Gen 3. So let's see how it's going. All right, so it seems to be, it's pretty hard to do this because it does fluctuate quite a bit. But let's say it's going from about 6.8, seems to be hovering close to 7 amps an hour, we'll say. So kind of ranges from 6.8 up to about 8. I've never actually looked at it this closely before, so it looks like it fluctuates. But yeah, so we'll go somewhere in the middle of that. So let's say 7.5 amps minus the 5 amps from before. So let's go 7 amps. All right, Starlink Mini connected. One thing I did notice with that is the Mini connects so much faster than the Gen 3. Like, it is actually crazy how much faster it connects, which is pretty handy if you're in a hurry to get on the net. So we'll check the RedArc again and let's see what the power draw is. So it's going up. So it went up to about 5.5, down to about 4.5. So let's say around 5 amps minus the 0.5 amp from where the battery load was at before we started. So let's say about 4.5 amps. So it's a pretty decent difference just running off the inverter. Like, I'll put up on the screen what the actual differences were because I cannot remember exactly what it was. but I think it's about 2 or 3 amps difference from the Mini compared to the Gen 3. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn it off again and we're going to plug it into... I just bought this little this lead off Amazon, I think about $30. It's a 3-meter cigarette plug lead. So one thing to note with this is I have heard that if you try to run a lead longer than 3 meters, the power will drop out too much to keep the...
There's too much power loss.
Yeah, too much power loss. So the dish will kind of start and stop. But the 3-meter lead so far, we've been using it, has worked flawlessly. So we're going to plug that in and then we'll see what the power draw is. Okay, so the Starlink Mini is now hooked up to the 12-volt cigarette plug and we're going to test out the power draw for that. Wow, oh, it's gone up a little bit. So it was about 1.6, it's gone up to 2.4. It's sitting around pretty steady actually, this one, compared to the inverter. So let's say 2.4 it's going at. So minus the half off that, so we'll say 1.9 amps. So that's a couple amp difference again, and that brings that power draw like way down to a more acceptable level, I reckon. That something you can actually run most of the day if you've got a decent battery set up without it kind of hindering your battery usage too much. So yeah, that's heaps better.
Yeah, because that's been the one thing that we've found is that you have to be really conscious of when we're using the Gen 3 Starlink, you have to be really conscious of when you're using it.
Yeah.
But with this, you can kind of leave it going.
So this kind of brings it down to like under a 12-volt compressor fridge kind of usage, which is like really, really good. So if you've got a decent battery set up, then it should easily cope with this, I would say. So yeah, really, really impressed. All right, speed test time. So what we're going to do first is test the Gen 3, and we're going to use the Starlink app, who actually has a built-in speed test function. One thing I should mention is, so both dishes are positioned up on the caravan roof, side by side, facing in exactly the same direction. All right, open Starlink app, speed test, and let's give it a crack. What I'll do with all these as well is I'll pop the results up on the screen, and then we might pop them all up together later on. So download speed is 351 megabits per second and upload speed is 35 megabits per second. Now we'll do the Starlink Mini. Okay, Starlink Mini speed test for indoors. Once again, we're going to use the app. I don't expect this to be as fast as what the Gen 3 was.
The irony of a speed test taking over a minute.
Yeah, I know. Look, to be fair, I actually didn't press the button straight away. So, so we've got 321 megabits per second upload and 16 megabits per second download, which is...
That's comparable.
It's pretty bloody close. I don't think it's exactly... I'm going to flash them both up on the screen because I can't remember the exact results. But like that is very, very close. So yeah, very, very impressed with the Mini from that. Let's go outdoors and we'll test the Mini now.
Okay, so we're going to do a distance test, about 10 meters, I'd say, because some people, we don't usually, but some people might want to have the Starlink mounted to their car. So we think 10 meters is probably a decent distance between caravan to check the performance.
Sick, let's do it.
I'm going to use my super...
accurate stepping. I think as long as we do the exact same spot again for the Mini,
yeah,
then it should be good.
Yeah.
Step away.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to use the Starlink speed test again. Okay, so we've got 344 download and 35 upload.
It's pretty similar, I think.
Yeah.
Cool, let's go test the Mini.
Okay, so we are outside now and we are going to do another speed test on the Starlink Mini. All right, 341 down, 35 up.
That's got to be very, very close, hey?
Yeah, super close. I think maybe if you were 10 meters away and like inside a caravan, I think the performance is better when we're outside.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
But that's very comparable to the Gen 3.
100%, yeah. It's crazy.
So good. Okay, so that's all the testing done. So probably one of the things to answer first off is, why did we buy a Mini when we already had the Starlink Gen 3?
Main thing is power draw. We needed to be using the net a lot more than the Tasmanian sun was allowing us to.
For sure. And probably someone's wondering is like, why didn't you get the Mini in the first place? And the reality is the Mini literally got released about 4 weeks after we purchased the Gen 3. So we were pretty devastated about that at the time, because we obviously knew how much better for us and our needs it would most likely be.
Yeah.
But I guess this way we've actually got to test out both units. So
Yeah.
one of the big benefits, as Ash mentioned, is the size. So the size, it's a drastic difference for how much space it takes up inside the caravan for storage. The other benefit with it is, because it can easily be run off 12 volt and it's so small, we can actually pop it on the dash inside the Troopy while we're traveling along without a permanent setup on the roof or anything like that. So it makes the Mini super versatile to be able to use for multiple applications.
One thing we might touch on before the end of the video is our experience with Starlink's customer service.
Yeah, so it has not been without issues for us. So we've been running it pretty much full time for 10 months now, as we said. Hasn't been without issues, but overall Starlink has been fantastic at solving basically any issues we had. So one thing I can think of straight off the bat was we purchased Starlink, we purchased a Gen 3, and then I noticed about a month later that it went on special in other places. So I actually sent a message through to Starlink about that, and they actually credited us a few $100s to make up the difference for the extra cost that we paid, which is really good. Since being on the road, we have also had times where our service has been pretty average. Each time I've contacted Starlink and they've basically credited a free month to make up for that, which has been really good. And then the final one was when we recently purchased the Gen 3 the other week. Not the Gen 3, sorry, the Mini. They actually don't have a setup where they just allow you to swap the dish on your plan. So what I actually had to do was cancel the Gen 3 plan and then start a new plan for the Mini. But we were only about a quarter of the way into the month of our Gen 3 plan. So basically we're going to have to be paying double payment for 20 days. So I actually sent Starlink a message about that, and they have effectively credited us like a month and a half worth of credit, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've got the Gen 3 currently still running is what enabled us to be able to do this test today.
Yeah.
So it's actually worked out really, really well. So overall, yeah, they've been super impressive with their customer service.
Yeah.
And
I mean, look, it's a premium product, and it's a premium subscription.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a small amount of money. But having great customer service goes such a long way.
Yeah, for sure, to chucking down the money in the first place. So overall, really, really impressed. So I guess the final thing to answer here is, if we're back at the beginning now and we knew what we knew, which one will we pick?
I mean, the Mini.
It's a pretty, for us and probably the testing we showed today, like for our use case, it's a no-brainer. Like, it's got to be the Mini. Since we started using the Mini, we have not noticed any kind of difference in performance with working, with streaming devices, for uploading YouTube videos. Basically, it just seems like a way more inferior product.
Oh, look, I think the Gen 3 is a great option if you are in a house.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, if you're stationary, but if you're traveling, just having that smaller dish that takes up way less space, takes up way less power, is just such a better option for people who are traveling, I think.
Yeah, it just sucks for us that it got released just after we bought the Gen 3, but
we learned.
Yeah, we learned, and now we know which one we would go for in the future if there's anything. Anyway, overall, such an impressive product. Obviously, you got to weigh up your needs with financially and everything when on the road, but for us, it just allows us to do all the things that we need to do living permanently on the road. So, guys, I hope you took some value out of this. If you're not subscribed, jump on, subscribe, check out our travel videos. We try to release one of them every 1 to 2 weeks. So We're currently traveling around Tasmania, having an amazing time. Looking forward to sharing some more adventures from here. Thanks, legends.
You.